male will enter into the kingdom of heaven. And people are like, what the heck? These people are on drugs. Well, how do you interpret that? Okay, well now you can, because you can understand the Shekinah down here having to become married back up here, because God is ultimately going to put it all back together. He's going to put male and female. He's going to put the whole thing back together. We will be the elect, okay? I mean, you can stop along the way anywhere, but those who ultimately want to be part of the crown, again, in the body, we'll get back up here, and he will put back Bina and Hokmah, the male and the female, again together in one. This is why Paul says when he talks about the whole marriage, it's a mystery. Well, it's not a mystery that is never meant to be understood. It's just couched, he's saying, in very Kabbalistic terms and understanding. So I just think that's kind of funny. But let me go on now and give you some, because we need to, the first thing of this whole thing, you have to understand wisdom and understanding and how they function together, two sides of the same coin. Hokmah is associated in the soul with the power of intuitive insight. Okay, now listen to this. Flashing lightning like across consciousness. You ever had a revelation? It's like out of nowhere. It's like a flash of lightning. You just get it. It's like the whole mystery is opened up. But I have to tell you this. Well, let me finish reading a little more. Okay, this seraphit, which is what it is associated with the power to spontaneously extract such insight from the supernatural realm and direct it into the consciousness. The wisdom of Hokmah, all right? This is Hokmah, you have to understand, is male. And if you in Hebrew, because Hebrew is a language, this is the point, that has male and female. So Bina is the mother. All her words, the ending of her words are female, and these are male. So Hokmah also implies the ability to look deeply at some aspect of reality and abstract its conceptual essence till one succeeds in undercovering its underlying axiomatic truth. That is revelation, okay? These seeds of truth can be conveyed to the companion power of Bina for the sake of intellectual analysis and development. Okay, now this is key, but I want to tell you a story. When I was first saved, I don't give a lot of personal anecdotes, but I will give this one. It was prophesied to me kind of how I would get saved. And lo and behold, it happened just like it was prophesied. And I remember somebody preaching to me the gospel in a way that would hook me. I won't give all the details, but I mean, God just knew. He knew how to present it to me that would just like a fish, just catch. And as the person's telling me, and as I'm in my brain kind of processing what they're saying, and I'm going from this state of like, oh, Jesus, wait a minute, don't be a Jesus, I've heard this, to like, he's saying something, and I'm going, well, that's interesting. To like, the beginning, see, because wisdom it's called the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, to this like, oh, you mean it is Jesus? Because I was looking for truth. This was, I was looking for truth in all the wrong places. And I was in my mind processing what he's talking about, and all of a sudden I get seized by this, it is Jesus. That's what he is really the truth. I can't believe it. And as I went from this position of almost like skepticism to like honest consideration to like feel like, wow, oh my gosh, it really is him. And I've been looking, and I had this insane flash of lightning go through my brain. I remember it was like, I was like, where? And it just struck, it's like, that was crazy. But now I understand, wisdom for the first time ever was able to enter my realm, my personal soul, body, spirit. Because, God has given us volition. He isn't just going to he doesn't just come in. You have to be, invited. Because I went in, because I actually went into faith, on the very doorstep of the fact of, wow, it really is Jesus. that very split second, I mean, like I said, so when I read this, I'm like, oh my God, that's so funny. I've experienced that on a real level. Now, I'm not saying that every revelation I get or anybody gets, you get the flash of lightning, because see, he is the light. But I feel like it was kind of funny. He was like turning the lights on, and he's like, okay, lost little girl, you little blind lost bird, would you like some light so you can see? So that really has always stuck with me. And lo and behold, that is actually very biblical and Kabbalah. So anyways, but this idea of hokma implies, but the thing that we really need to get to is to bina, which is to understanding. Because he says principal thing is, now this is where, when Paul, see, because we could have saved ourselves. I mean, see, ignorance is the worst form of tyranny, and it creates such bad fruit. And, you know, the war between the sexes, this whole thing, we could have totally spared ourselves if we had understood or kept Kabbalah, is our understanding, because this is the point. When Paul says that Adam was first formed and not Eve, he's speaking to a pagan worldview, to a pagan culture, pagan people, who, the flip side was true, but he was trying to explain to them that no, hokma, the Father, wisdom, is first. This is which is the beginning, and it's the word beginning, which is the word rosh, which is the word firstborn, which is it's the thought. Because what you can understand about this, there's another way of saying this is, okay, let's just say I had this thought. My husband and I'm the bina, he's the hokma, so to speak. This is all very spiritual. There's no hierarchy to this. Decided to build a house. Because God actually says this. He's building a house to house his glory. You know, and the temple is all this, the tabernacle, this is all the language, the container. You know, we have this treasure in earthen vessels, this whole thing. But it's the first thing that happens is the thought, oh, I think I'll build a universe. Oh, or I think I'll build a house. Down here, that would probably be the best that I could, you know, ever. So my husband, we have this thought. We have a thought. That's the hokma, to build this house. Now, it's going to take a lot of bina, a lot of understanding and skill, and a lot of things to come into play in order to actualize, to manifest, to make that seed of thought, or whatever it is, actually bear fruit and become something that's livable, okay? And this is the whole concept. And every time God made things, if you get into it, it was good. Okay, the whole virus problem, the problem of evil that, you know, and I've tried to explain it on a whole different level with the trees, the parabolic language, the Kabbalah uses trees a lot to house some of this understanding of how this thing went south and why the Shekinah had to come down and manifest itself. When Jesus, when he is weeping over Jerusalem, which is the woman, which is the whole, now I haven't really explained what happened here. But he says, "Oh Jerusalem, Jerusalem, as a mother, I would love to comfort you, as you know, bring your chicks under my wing." That is God, Yahweh, in his female persona, showing compassion and the attributes. There are attributes, okay? That's all they are. There's not hierarchy. There's attributes, okay? And God said they were all good. So this is, let me get back to this about hokma is the primary beginning force in the creative process. It is the thought. See, and then this gets into Genesis. We can see, and this is why they say the book of creation, the Sefer Yetzar, and I don't know if I'm saying that 100% correctly, Genesis is one of the deepest Kabbalistic works there is, because they give a lot of this understanding. They couch it in metaphors. Beasts and trees and the moon and the sun and all these different things. And we, typical people with no light, very low, dim light, as it says, you know, we see very darkly through this thing, give it all this, you know, very first level carnal understanding. But anyways, these seeds of truth can then be conveyed to the companion power, remember, it's companion power of Bina, for the sake of intellectual analysis and development. So you have made them all. See, because this is where it's the verses that he says, like Psalm 104:24. You have made them all with hokma, which is the Hebrew word for wisdom. The first word of the Torah in Genesis, Bereshit, means in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth, is translated in the Targum of Jonathan as with hokma, with wisdom, God created. Hokma, and then some of these things, the book of Job states that, behold, the fear of God, which isn't fear in the negative sense, it's an awe. That's what I had, is like an awe, like, oh, it really is Jesus. It's like, oh my gosh. The awe, which let me see, taste and see the Lord is good. In general, the sense of sight relates to hokma. The lightning flash referred to above, the first time wisdom, hokma, ever entered my brain, is an inner spiritual sense of taste in the Kabbalah. See, because this is all the senses. It talks about you can see, you can hear, you can touch, and you can taste. Not in the literal carnal sense, but I've always said it's a template that, so in a spiritual sense, you can taste and see that the Lord is good. When you have understanding, it's like a feast. It's like, that's why I would say he's prepared the greatest feast. He did save the best wine, which is understanding, for last. So now let me get back to a couple of this understandings of the Shekinah. Now, this is important to understand because this is Hebraic. Even my husband, who's done some of these teachings, you know, when he finally, he listened to me at one point, and he kind of like bought into this idea that understanding that the Shekinah is the Ruach HaKodesh, is the female persona of God, because it's true. It's absolutely Hebraic, people. I am not making that up. It's one of the reasons that the Jews have such a hard time, or the house of Judah, of kind of taken our Jesus for seriously. Is we have just butchered this stuff. I mean, they look at us and they go, there is no way that you could be preaching the Messiah that we have been anticipating. And you know, I can feel their pain. Oh my gosh. So the Shekinah is the divine presence. Now, this is important. When we refer to God as transcendent, oh my goodness. I'm trying to read this off of my tablet here. So let me find this again. It just decided to leave. When we refer to God as transcendent, infinite, and beyond, we call him he. We give it a male persona. This is called anthropomorphic. This is when you give human or things attributes, because we know there's a big difference between men and female, even physiologically. But when we refer to God as imminently here now in a nurturing inner way, we say she is the Shekinah. So like when Jesus, he was overcome with his mother, because he was full of the Spirit and the wisdom of God. He was full of both his mother and his father. So he was feeling the pain of Jerusalem, a very nurturing, so this is, you can see this. Now I hope you can see this understanding. We don't have to fight with each other. We have to really come together and put this thing together. This is the whole thing with the bride, the Shekinah. She is the bride. She is going to marry her groom, okay? And the two are going to become one, and they're going to go up. And the reason that I'm going to say this real quick, because I'm already beginning to run out of time. This is just going to take me a while. Because we're coming at the end of the age where we're coming upon the marriage supper of the Lamb. We're coming upon the marriage. And if you're not in the bride, okay, if you're not a virgin with oil and get to go into the bridal chamber, you're going to miss this whole thing, okay? This is a one time. And he's going to bring them. But let me tell you, this whole level down here of the Malkut female, this is the kingdom. Jesus said the kingdom of God is within. Now I haven't even begun to get there and unpack that yet. But this level down here is very much the earthly. The Shekinah a lot of times relates to the earth, to earthly passions and appetites and things, and to the Gia. These are all words that talk about. She has, and I have to give you this story, and I don't know if I'll do it tonight. She has allowed herself to fall, to come down. This is what in Hebrew is the shattering of the vessels, the light, the shattering of the lights to come. She is looking for us. She's the one down here. She left her high above. She came down, and she has been looking for the sons and daughters of God, the lights that are down here walking around in darkness, so that she can bring them through mirrors. This is the mystery. This is what Paul said, and this is what Satan didn't figure out. This is awesome. He is going to bring her back up and marry her and make them both one again. Okay, now this realm, I have to tell you, so this is the foundation. This is Yahad. We can't, if I went through this whole thing, but remember, Jesus is the foundation stone that the builders rejected down here in the more, let's call this the earth plane. Let's call this the first three worlds, really. Because Paul talks about things below the earth, things on the earth, and things, but this is the air. Okay, I have to tell you, because there's definitely, one thing, there's geography to this thing. And people, so anyways, when we're going to meet him in the air and he's going to bring with him, this is where he is. He's in the air. This is not, see, so this whole thing of the rapture, this is why, evangelical Christians just really and I suppose, and I'm not trying to be self-righteous or condescending, but it's available. I don't understand why people don't want to go deeper. But this is the air where we're going to meet him. There's going to be, this is where the great cloud of witnesses, okay, this thing, clouds. So what I'm trying to say is, but it's not the high heaven, okay? It's not there yet. This is where, so there is geography to this thing. This explains the rapture, which I wouldn't use that word anyways, the resurrection. This is what's, oh my gosh, going on. But let me just quickly, I'm going to run out of time. I want to give a couple of really good, oh, and I found this also. I have to just throw this out there. Sorry, this will be my one really big rabbit trail. You know how Yahushua, Jesus said he summed up all the Torah in 2 words. He said, to love God and love your neighbor as yourself, right? Well, we think he originated, but this is the complete distillation or essence of all Torah. And this is what I understand. This is what Hillel the elder, Paul was of the school of Hillel, okay? And I think I've touched on this. A lot of people understand now with Paul, there were 2 really major schools, rabbinical schools, be like the Catholics and they had some very major differences, okay? And but Hillel the elder was a major Kabbalist of his day. Paul learned from him. Paul became a master Kabbalist. That's why Peter said, a lot of the stuff he's talking about is hard to understand. I got that, especially for Gentile Christians. Most of it was kind of like going right over their head. This is why it so quickly was able to be hijacked. But he says this, love is best expressed by that which you do not do. Hillel the elder said this when he summed up the entire Torah. If you do not like something, don't do it to someone else. Isn't that what Jesus said? There lies all the law and the prophets. I mean, it's even a child can get that, okay? If you don't want somebody to steal your toys, you don't steal somebody else's toys, okay? It's not rocket science. So, in the creation, in the dynamic of duality, God assumes the role of the male, and the creation, as I said down here, the bride is, and creation is that of the female. The male is trapped in his consciousness of the ideal original state of reality. See, I don't want to get too deep into this. The female, in contrast, is trapped in her consciousness of perfecting created reality, because that's what she was called to do. Her challenge is to remember the goal towards which she is working, which is to reclaim the lost, those who were foreknown from the foundations of the world. He knew us beforehand, okay? And so she's coming after us. But the abstract, all right, the final lowest manifestation of this duality, of course, is man and woman in our physical world. But see, most of the theology you're going to get is totally in the lower world, And when it says that man will rule over her, it has nothing at all to do with what you will, what they're going to teach you in a fundamentalist kind of way. It's so much bigger and more beautiful, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Now, Bina understanding, the feminine mother, and malchut. These things totally relate to each other. An additional measure of understanding was given to the woman, but we can't think of the woman in this sense in a carnal woman, or worst case scenario, which is what the others are in goddess worship, okay? This is the whole point. These are essences. This is the mind of God up here. We use anthropomorphic just so we can begin to, like we talk about the hand of God, the right hand and the left hand. Well, God doesn't have hands, but how else are we going to grasp some of this stuff? So, the ideal of extending, thus we see the understanding that understanding is an intrinsically feminine quality. The idea of extending below the line, as above, so below, remember that's a whole big thing, in Kabbalah represents the idea of penetrating into the lower aspects of reality. As we said, the feminine aspect of creation is that which draws the divine energy into the task of rectifying and elevating the created world. This is where we are supposed to be full of the wisdom of God, the glory of God, the Shekinah of God, so that we can affect a fallen world. This is like having your salt. I mean, there's a lot of ways they talk about this. Now, the earth eretz. Now, I wonder if I can do this quickly. The earth eretz, the land, which is the Gia, became tahu and bahu, null and void. But I think next week I'm going to really go into Genesis and explain them. In Kabbalah, it's explained that the Seraphit of Malkut, which is down here, which is sovereignty, which is the kingship, which is David. It goes ahead that David was the one king. He is the one typology of the king who will rule down here in a recreated world, okay? A new heaven and a new earth, okay? Let's see. The higher... I don't want to get into that. Malkut, okay, now this Malkut is down here, is used as speech and communication. Speech, this is really kind of funny. Speech has been used to depict the concept of the feminine, Malkut, all right? Malchut, I don't know if I'm saying it all. Through speech, or the 10 utterances of God, creation came into being. Remember in the beginning, God spoke. With wisdom, see, it says with wisdom and understanding, he formed the world. He spoke with understanding, and he formed the world. So this creation came into being, enabling God's sovereignty to be felt by seemingly distinct created beings. Through this speech, the hidden worlds evolved into revealed worlds. Because first you have essence, you have thought, you have idea, and then it comes down and it gets more substance and substance and substance. This idea of a seed, and finally, whoop, pops out of a flower. Something you can really see, something tangible, something physical. See, for example, okay, Malkut is the mouth, and we call it the oral Torah, as I said. So, too, Malkut channels and elicits the original illumination, okay, represented by the Yud, because the other thing the Hebrews believe, I believe this now, that God created the world with the Hebrew alphabet. Men report, and I'll end with this because it's kind of funny, in the implications even down here, see the word is just true on every level. It says that men report while women report. Interestingly, on a sociological and physiological level, women represent the feminine Malkut, generally excel in the domain of speech and communication. It has been noted how men report while women report, developing the ideas and original dry information as they elaborate, convey, understanding, and relate it to one another. Thus, the power to communicate, to nurture, and to emphasize are all areas in which women, as the feminine representation of the Serapha of Malkut, excel. Now, have you never heard that? They always say this little joke that, men speak 10,000 words to 30,000 of women. The Seraph of Malkut as the letter Hey, because they also represent letters of the Hebrew alphabet and they also represent numbers, is the last and final link in the flow of divine light into our physical world. As such is identified with the Shekinah, the divine presence in our world. Remember I said the higher level we refer to God as a He, in his abstractness, but in his real closeness, the Hebrew, she is with us. Shekinah, that attribute of God, she is with us. She is walking this thing. This is important because she is also, when he talks about the Bible, the woman, the daughter, this is not talking about our physical relationships down here. This is talking about the Shekinah as a mother, as a daughter, as the female persona, okay? A voice, the Shekinah, the divine presence of the world, also called the mourning mother. That's what Jesus, when Yeshua, he was exhibiting the Shekinah, the mourning mother. Oh Jerusalem, how I mourn for you. A voice, this is another way, because Leah and Rachel are also types of this thing. A voice is heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel is weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children because they are no more. Thus says the Lord, restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work will be rewarded, declares the Lord. They will return from the land of the enemy. There is hope for your own future, declares the Lord, and your children will return to their own territory. The Eretz. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. Right now, the Shekinah is in mourning. She's in exile. She has followed us. This is what's so beautiful about the whole thing. She has followed us into exile, and she will... talk about the hound dog of heaven. She is with us. She will never leave us, or she will never forsake us. And until we get back into the bride, back up, married into the groom, meet him in the air, at that point, the exile will totally be over, and her children will be back, back up into the immortality that was originally theirs. So I know this is a lot, but to me it's exciting, it's beautiful, it's our Father Yahweh communicating to us really in abstract concepts that we really can understand, and it is Hebraic. So people, it's time to get into the root. So anyways, on that note, I say good night, God bless, and I will see you next week.